As our minds become more like the divine mind, we all expand into greater livingness. Our world created by our consciousness, and our consciousness taking its color from the perception of our relation to the infinite. I'm going to say it again. Yeah. 'Cause when I read it the first time, I thought, I have to read this one again. As our minds become more like the divine mind, we all expand into greater livingness. Our world created by our consciousness, and our consciousness taking its color from the perception of our relation to the infinite. Kind of sinks in the second time. Join me in using the creative power within by saying together,
with deep conviction that life is good,
and for me, I throw myself with complete abandon into the limitless sea of receptivity, allowing myself to be a perfect reflection of the flawless, radiant brilliance of spirit within. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. That was beautiful. And I think you're beginning to see that there is a theme going on today that has to do with what word? What's the one word? Anybody get it? Color, yes. So we're talking about the colors of our being. And so I'd like to begin with a story. So at one time, a family decided to go on vacation through Europe, and they took their 6-year-old daughter. And they saw all of the great cathedrals and chapels with the stained glass windows. And when they came back, they went to their spiritual center. And during the children's fellowship, the little girl, went that particular day, and the teacher said, "So all of you, we're talking about people who are ascended beings, who are saints, and who are great wise men and sages and avatars and these various people. And so, can you tell me? Can anybody tell me or give me a description of these people?" And the little girl jumps up. "I know, I know, I know. Oh, please, please, pick me, pick me, pick me." And so the teacher is so totally excited about the enthusiasm of this little girl, and so says, "Okay, tell me what do you think?" And she said, "Well, those are the people that the light shines through. That the light shines through." So today, what we're going to be looking at is how to be those transparencies that the light shines through. And we know that we are all the light, individualized, the light of the divine. And so, how is it then that we prepare ourselves in consciousness to uh, cultivate that thing that we call the divine mind within us, in order to be that beautiful shining light? What's involved in that? And even more so, what does color have to do with it, right? If we're transparencies. So we know that we came here then to be people that the light shines through, like the saints, to be ablaze with the brilliance of the divine. And so what stops us from beaming? If that's the way we're made and designed, what stops us? And I'm looking to the great spiritual master Lao Tzu, who was the father of Taoism. And this is what he said: "Every human being's essential nature is perfect and faultless. But after years of immersion in the world, we easily forget our roots and take on a counterfeit nature." In other words, in our modern day language, the conditioned mind. We can look at it as that, the conditioned mind. And so, like the rock that surrounds the diamond, when we mine the diamond for the first time, that can block the radiance, this immersion in our culture in human consciousness and the experiences that we've had all along are the things that and form various types of belief structures. We talk about this a lot. We call it the conditioned mind that can block the light, can block that radiance. So this month we're using kind of a unique way of approaching it, which is to look at the 4 C's when we talk about rating diamonds. And each week we've been choosing one of the qualities to look at more deeply and seeing them as spiritual principles, because spiritual principles can be discovered all around us, right? Life is full of metaphors. So this time we're using these 4 different qualities of a diamond. And for the purpose, of course, of unveiling that beautiful inner brilliance. So I'm going to invite you to do what we've done the last 3 Sundays, which is to brush off all distractions in our minds, the monkey mind, the conditioned mind, and open our arms and say, I am open.
I am open.
I am willing.
I am willing.
I am ready to receive.
I am ready to receive.
I am ready to receive the message that is just right for me.
I am ready to receive a message that is just right for me.
All right. So color, as it turns out, is the number one thing that experts believe will determine the value of a diamond, is the color. And here's the interesting thing. I did some research on it. And in truth, the diamonds that are the most valuable, that get the most per carat, are the blue or the red diamonds. I don't know if Dan ever got a picture of this, because this is something I did some research on later, but the blue or the red diamonds, and they're phenomenal. I mean, if you've ever seen them, they're amazing. Well, today I'm not going to be talking about those particular diamonds. I'm going to be talking about the kind of the typical diamond that we have in mind, which happens to be a clear diamond. They call them white diamonds, but they're clear diamonds. And they have a rating scale from D to Z, from the very clearest and purest to the ones that have some various, and usually there are yellow colors that are in them. And the idea being that the clearer that it is, the more brilliantly, when they're cut with those prismatic shapes, the more brilliantly they reflect the light. So again, if we tie that back to the story that we talked about, the light of the saints. In truth, all of us, we sometimes put saints and sages and great wise people on these huge pedestals. But the truth is each one of us is that already. And I keep bringing us back to that because it's important for us to really embrace the amazing brilliance that we are in this very moment. So I invite you to ask yourself, am I willing to let that light shine, to be that brilliance that I'm designed to be as often and as brilliantly as I possibly can from day to day? And when I'm talking about brilliance, I'm talking about radiating all of those qualities of our divine nature: love, peace, joy, beauty, grace, harmony, intelligence, wisdom, all of those things that we associate with the divine. So has anyone heard of Joel Goldsmith before?
Yes.
Okay. What can you tell me about him?
He's a meditation teacher.
Okay, meditation. What else? Anything else about Joel Goldsmith?
He's an author.
He's an author. 20 books. The man has written 20 books. Did you know he was a contemporary of Ernest Holmes? He was a contemporary. And he started a great movement called what? Anybody know? The Infinite Way. And he was known for, people would go to him for prayer, and he would use a prayer very similar to what we use, an affirmative prayer, and they would receive healings, instantaneous healings often. So he was a modern day mystic, a New Thought writer, and started a movement of his own. And he had one essential teaching that ties in today so beautifully. The essence of his teaching is that you are the presence of God individualized. He said if we really truly embrace that and get that, everything else works in our lives. As long as we think we're separate, lacking, limited, all those human kinds of things, as long as we think that's who we are not that beautiful transparency for the divine light that we are in truth. So it's a shift of our thoughts. Always goes back to that. In one of his books called Practicing the Presence, he wrote on page 19, God is love, God is life, God is spirit, God is all, God is. There is a God, never doubt that, he said. This God is infinite in nature, eternal, universal, impersonal, impartial, omnipresent. But how do we avail ourselves to that which God is? How do we bring this that we know about God into our individual experience? To illustrate, we can turn to the field of music. The principle of music is absolute. If, however, we fail to understand its principle, the sounds produced turn into a jumble of discordant sounds. And he said, and when that happens, we don't rail against the principles of music, do we? We don't say, it's the principles of music that did it to me, right? No, we don't do that. But it's so interesting how when we don't use the principles of spirit, the universal principles, we will sometimes rail at God. How many people have done that before? You don't have to raise your hands. How many people? Yeah, so but we rail against the principles, and what we think is the origin of those principles. And yet, the truth is it's a matter of simply practicing the principles, practicing the presence. We call it practicing the presence of the divine, showing up as much as possible as that presence. So what we have learned, what have we learned about these principles, these spiritual principles? We know that our word, our thought creates, yes? And we know that the law is designed to simply say, yes, right. It just simply responds to our thought and produces what we focus on. And yet, when we start the practice, and this happens a lot with New Thought students, is they practice the principles and maybe kind of get off track for a while and go off in the other direction and then say, this stuff doesn't work, you know? And yet we know with persistent practice, because we have many people to demonstrate this for us, that the universal law truly does support us. It truly does. Because that's the way it's designed. The universe is designed to be all providing. And when we go back to that idea of the Father within. We talk, this is Father's Day. We call the Father within. You can call it the Mother within if you decide to do that. But the truth is that presence, that kingdom of heaven is within us. And the sooner that we learn to turn in that direction for our answers, for planting new thoughts, the greater we're going to have the demonstration of that brilliant light that we are in our lives. So Goldsmith goes on to say, we apply ourselves more diligently to practicing the principle until we become proficient in its application. So it must be with our God experience. God is here, God is now. But God is available only in proportion to our willingness to accept the discipline that is necessary for the attainment of that mind, which was also in Christ Jesus. And so, what is that mind that was in Christ Jesus that he was talking about? What is that? The mind of what?
God.
God, oneness. We're talking about oneness. And I'm reminded of something that Jenny loves to say. Do you mind if I share this, what you like to say when you're with people? Are you okay with that?
Sure.
You want to tell us what you say?
Well,
In your mind, yeah.
In my mind, I don't say it out loud. I
Uh-huh.
freak people out.
Yeah.
But I say, we are one, and I love you. We are one, and I love you.
That's it.
I have a challenging
Mm-hmm.
situation, and I just go still, and I just keep thinking that.
Uh-huh.
And I watch people just transform right before my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible.
Yeah, that's the Christ mind that we're talking about. It's a mind of oneness, that realizing we are all one, and so we're able to give that love to someone even when they're showing up in a challenging way. I love that. Let's all say that with Jenny, okay? We are one, and I love you. We are one, and I love you. Isn't that great? That's an example of this, the Christ mind, or the divine mind within us. Ernest Holmes writes about Jesus. He was a man who knew himself and his direct relationship to the whole. He believed in God in himself, a power and a reality. Believing in God within, he was compelled to believe in himself. And that's what happens, is when we begin to believe that the divine is at our center and core as our true nature, then we begin to have confidence in ourselves, because we have confidence in a greater principle. We have the confidence not in God, but the confidence of God. We move through life with that beautiful, strong, stable strength, that confidence that emanates from deep in the very source of our being. So, what happens then when the light goes through a clear diamond that's been cut with all of these beautiful prisms? Dan, you want to show us? Okay, so it's in the center here. Do you see it? So what happens? It breaks. Breaks. I don't want to say breaks up, but it diversifies. How about that? It diversifies into a lot of different colors. Isn't that what happens not only within us, but within all of humanity? That beautiful light goes through that clear transparency of who we are and shows up as our unique personalities, and it shows up as great diversity among humanity. Yes? Isn't that exciting? I mean, I think it's so cool to think about that. And the diamond, again, a beautiful metaphor for us to carry with us, to realize how all of this works. So the color, what are the basic colors? And I was thinking of the colors of the chakras from in Eastern tradition: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Yeah. So the clear light of spirit then shines through us and separates into the chakras in all of these different colors. I mean, I love all these beautiful metaphors of the diamond, how that works and how that works in us. And as we clarify our minds, as we remember who we are in truth, and this is not meant to be a struggle, it's meant to be a turning toward the truth. Gentle, we gently move ourselves back to the truth of our oneness with the divine, oneness consciousness. And so then what comes through is our unique personalities and what we like to call our true colors. Yeah? The true colors that come through as we let go of the counterfeit self that's in fear. The counterfeit self is that aspect that's in fear, that has bought into the lack and limitation and the separation consciousness. But when we return to our true selves, to oneness consciousness, then the light can come through and our beautiful, unique personalities show up, our true colors show up. And again, what Kristen read, which was so beautiful, our consciousness takes its color from the perception of our relationship to the infinite. So I have a handout on everybody's chair. Does everybody have one? And if you don't, there are plenty of them. I think they're on every single seat. So pass one up. It looks like the front row people might need one. And actually, I didn't bring mine up with me. Right. So this is an exact replica of what I have up on the screen. And so what I'd like you to do is have that in hand, have a pen in hand, and I'm trusting that you all have your name tags too. And if you don't, raise your hand so that our people can go get your name tags off the board, because we're going to be putting something on the back of our name tags. So these are for people who are members. And you can actually write it on your own name tag. If those of you who need a paper name tag, you can raise your hand too, and we'll use that as well. It looks like everybody's leaving. Look what I started. You don't want to know your true colors? Okay, just leave. Oh. Okay, everybody has a pen, they have a name tag, they have their their paper. Okay, I'm going to invite you to close your eyes now. And take a breath. Oh, they're still coming back. They decided to return and play after all. Ah, all right, let's take a breath. And let's drop down into our hearts. Just bring your attention to your heart and just breathe a few breaths in and out. Breathing in love and breathing out love, as if your heart had a mouth or a nose and you could breathe in and out of it. Think of 3 people that you admire. We're carrying on what we did at the beginning of the service. 3 people that you admire. Begin to think of them and identify the qualities of the divine that you see in them that stand out, that you admire, that inspire you. And gently open your eyes and circle 1 or 2 qualities in each and every pie shape in all of the different colors. 1 or 2 qualities that you see in those people. Just one or two in each section. Anybody need more time? Okay. I'd like you now to use that divine masculine quality of focus and focus in the center on the diamond itself. And remind yourself that you are like that diamond, that transparency of the divine. And then I'd like you to widen your focus next to take in the whole entire wheel. And be aware that you are also that diverse expression of the divine. So you are the transparency and you are the expression that has that all those beautiful colors of the divine nature in it in your own unique way. And then I'd like you to write this sentence on here, on your paper, that says, I have come here to be, and then fill in the I have come here to be. You don't have to write all of them down right now, but all of those things that you circled, I have come here to be that, those qualities. If you admire, here's the principle. If you admire them in other people, they're already in you. That is who you are. It's a belief in separation that might still be residing within you that sees it out there and not in here. But the truth is if you see it in someone else, it is already in you. So we're claiming it. I am here to be, and put those qualities down. And you can even write under that, these are my true colors. Another way of saying that, this is my authentic self. It's the same, means the same thing. And when you've done that, I invite you to write those qualities on the back of your name tag. Just the qualities. So I'm here to be. And when you get a chance, if you don't have time to do it right now, I invite you to do it before you leave today, is write those qualities on the back of your name tag. So that no matter, so every time you come and you pick up your name tag, you look on the back and it reminds you, I'm here to be this. This is who I'm here to be. And our brand new members have done that already. Jenny and Sharon and the others who did this as part of their orientation. But we're doing that from here forward. So I wanted to get everybody kind of caught up with that whole process. So we're all reflecting on who we came here to be every time we walk in the door. There's a little reminder on the back of our name tag. And also, it's a good idea to wear our name tag, remembering that even though most people know who you are, the brand new people don't. So I'm inviting you to wear your name tags each time, remembering that this is a way that we are being more welcoming to new people when they come in through the door. So in closing, when we're constantly striving to be someone or somewhere else than where we are in the moment, what happens is we focus on the gap between where we think we are and where we want to be. And so I'm asking us to let go of that and do it, because what that does, it sets up a pattern of there's something wrong with me or I'm not enough. So if we begin to shift that and to say, I am that now, I'm already that. I'm already an amazing transparency of the divine. I'm already containing my true colors. I'm already my authentic self. Then what will happen then is we begin to shift from I am perfect, whole, and complete, just as I am, which is the truth. Did everybody get that? That's so important because it gets us away from striving and thriving or surviving, and it moves us into a place of thriving. We thrive when we know who we are in truth, and we embrace that here now in this moment. So I invite us all to affirm that for ourselves with a vibrant yes, and so it is. Thank you.